And hello, everyone. Another umbraCoffee. I wanted to say another week, another umbraCoffee, but it's been a while. It's been 3 weeks since we've been here, but we're back. How are we doing today? How are you, Callum?
I'm doing good, Marcin. I'm busy. I'm about to go to Australia. I'm heading to Australia in literally a few hours. So straight after umbraCoffee, jumping in a taxi off to the airport. But a busy week preparing for that. And I'd love to say I missed umbraCoffee, but it does feel like it was only last week we actually did the last episode again.
Yeah, and funny enough, I'm in London at the moment, also traveling all the time. Yeah, it's like it's been a tough logistics to sort it out to make it all happen. What happened during the last 3 weeks?
It's a good question. There's been a lot of releases. There's been a lot of drama in the community, not necessarily the Umbraco community, but more the Microsoft and the wider tech space. And of course, .NET release came out last week. Bunch of nice community activity. A lot of good buzz after the UK festival as well, which made me very happy, but I slept for a very long time afterwards. So.
And what have you people were doing? It's great to see so many of you here. Have you been waiting for umbraCoffees? Did you miss them on the weekly basis? We definitely had. We did realize something that it even though we are the most prepared for this episode ever, it was still not enough preparation and not enough time to promote, as we promised, an episode, for example, on Monday, and do a lot of other things. But we sort a lot of logistics, and we've prepared a lot. And probably, Callum, it took the most of your time today to prepare, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've always said, for anyone that's joined umbraCoffee before, you'll know that we kind of show up 5 minutes before and maybe prepare things a few hours before, as much as we'd love to pretend it's a nicely well-prepared show. And last week, or even the week before, we said, we really need to have a chat about what happens with umbraCoffee for today. And then on Monday, it was like, we really need to sort something for umbraCoffee today. And then just been a little bit busy, so haven't. Yeah.
Cool. Should we stop unmuting ourselves in exchange? Yeah, so we are both here in our office, catching up and taking the advantage of me being here in London. But it's not a tradition. It won't be the tradition.
No, it would be lovely for it to be, but yeah, I think logistically a bit more challenging. Hey?
Yeah. Maybe you'll be coming to Poland from time to time to do
that. I'd love to go to Poland. We had a chat, I think, in April, Marcin, where we said we've got to do a Poland trip this year. Yeah. So let's make that happen. umbraCoffee in Poland again would be lovely.
Yeah. Hope it was a little surprise for you. It was a little bit surprise for us as well. But yeah, we still had some time to align it. And Callum did an amazing job coming here to an office.
I got a bus. I very rarely get a bus, but I got a bus today.
Yeah, that's impressive. Then even more. So appreciate that. And as proper YouTubers, again, like it, subscribe. If you are here for the first time, maybe by any accident, we were doing the weekly streams of Umbraco News here on the channel, and we plan to do it monthly now with a little bit more of news to talk about and more time to discuss them, because that was the challenge.
I think we've really enjoyed more of the discussion things, and some weeks it's been about like churning out stories. And look, there's 15 packages that were released this week, and we just don't really have the enjoyment for that. I guess we enjoy the live events and the discussions and meeting with people and meeting with the community. So we really want this to be more about demos, conversations, and if you look at the news list we've got today, it's like a quarter of the size of any news list we've ever had before, because we've just got a few topics that we really want to discuss. So that's good.
Yeah, so let's jump to them and let's discuss. First of all, a big celebration as well, and then an appreciation of the commitment for another great community team behind the Script release that celebrated the issue number 100.
Yeah, with an epic 4-part Script author collab with the CanCon team, and I know a little bit of insider info here that the website didn't support having 4 articles,
Okay.
and they had to spend quite a long time, maybe 6-8 weeks before the event, before the 100th issue, to actually roll out a bunch of changes. For a while, the short links that they have, it's like script.io/number, they all broke, and Janae was fighting for a long time to try and get this thing working. It's great to see that they still have technical challenges even after 100 issues. But some great articles as well. I particularly enjoyed Laura's article. In fact, good mix of technical stuff and community focused things.
I did see Carol's article about OWASP's security stuff earlier, and it's a good combination of information. Plus, again, 100 of script episodes issues. It's a lot. We know how much time consuming it is, and how much commitment is required to run something like this for that long. And we were talking with the community at the event recently that it feels like they were with us forever.
It does. I was just going to say, what was on the first umbraCoffee episode? What would have been the script issue number? I don't want to do the maths on that, but I think it's in the teens, which is slightly crazy to think. It does feel just like it's been around the community
that's
forever.
True. Yeah, and that makes just a confirmation that is something what is just treated as given. There's a lot of interesting, really articles highlighted all over, and wishing you the best for everyone who wrote, who want to write for script, and for the team behind to continue doing it, because that's
also if you listened to the Candid Contributions podcast that went out on the same day as Script 100, they recorded Emma recorded a small interview with Kyle, Janae, and Erica at the US Summit, where they talked about the work that goes in, how they've shifted roles over the years, how it's gone from Erica doing a lot of the outreach to now Janae doing some more of the outreach, and really trying to spread that just to keep it interesting for themselves. But it does give you an insight into the amount of work that goes into it. Anyone that's written for script will know you get a nice postcard to say thanks to the post with some stickers. They offer to pay all of their authors. I think most people turn it down. I certainly have every time. I could rather they gave it to someone else or bought themselves a nice drink or something. But yeah, a lot of work and effort goes into that, in addition to just not just publishing articles. It's the website, it's the social media promotion. They're doing a newsletter,
Instagram post,
Instagram. Crazy amount of work.
And they also improved a lot, because I saw that some of the reels and stories being recorded by authors, inviting people to read their articles. So it's a lot of effort and a lot of work placed into making this a success. And so
they also said they have a nice little nugget of insight here from them. Was about when they are desperate for an author. It's not only the case, but when they're desperate, they're like, oh, we actually don't have anything, or someone's dropped out last minute. Their old reliables are Tim Payne and Anders Bjarne, and I can feel that, because we've got some more reliables from umbraCoffee as well.
We have a short list
of people we've reached out to that we know we can reach out to at short notice, and they'll probably be able to join us. Always helpful to have a couple in the bag. Script 32. Oh wow, it's more than I thought. That really has been around a long time.
That's the recurrence time makes the difference here. But that's impressive, and keep up the good work. And for all the people who want to be a part of the script, I think there's always a hunger for more authors. There's always a place in the schedule for something cool to be released, in combination with something what is coming next month as well, called 24 Days in Umbraco. But that's both.
You say next month, next Friday, in a week, we get our first installment.
I'm an optimist, and I want to delay this
Sure.
Not that I'm here for the Christmas party, right? So it's almost the end of year. But that's one of the biggest celebrations. So once again, celebrate. It's well deserved, and just keep it coming. The next release and the next topic on our agenda is Umbraco Product Update from November this year, highlighting everything as usual, right? What happened in the Umbraco since the previous product update. New releases, upcoming releases. Some releases are already released.
We've had a bunch of incremental updates to Umbraco CMS. We had Umbraco 12.3, and then 12.3.1, and then 12.3.2, and then 12.3.3. If you upgraded to 12.3, there's an issue where if you have more than 1,000 media items. No. It's if you have more media items than you have content, it will only index the cache will only build the first 1,000 media items.
Okay.
There was a few workarounds posted, but in 12.3 it's actually 12.3.3 it's actually fixed. We learned the hard way by deploying that to production, and yeah, our test environment didn't have the amount of content and production did, and it really.
And that's the lesson to keep the content synchronized as well between the environments. And
yes, it is.
I know that how big difference content can make, right, in the overall process of testing and everything what we do.
Yeah.
And plenty of updates also on the other products on the cloud. We've mentioned this as the CI/CD flows and automatic minor upgrades were released as well and announced. Some of the additional services and what is the most interesting for us from time perspective are the new releases and some things that were released since this blog post was released, if we can say, which is, for example, Umbraco 13 release candidate.
Umbraco 13 is obviously the long-term support version.
Yes.
And if you look at what's included, I think it's one of the most exciting Umbraco releases we've had in quite a few years, actually, because we've got .NET 8 and C# 12, both of which only came out officially last week. And this will be launching in 14th of December in a couple of weeks' time. There's a bunch of modernizations under the hood for .NET, so they're moving to the minimal hosting model. If you want to use it, you can keep using the traditional web host model that's there. They've got a bunch of improvements to the delivery API, as we've come to expect with each of these releases. But my two favorites, dynamic route. So XPath is gone, and it's become a thing called dynamic route, which effectively gives you a UI to build up your query. And then that gets turned into a raw database query under the hood.
Do you remember the query builder from the previous Umbraco version? That was something what I do seen used a lot by people, and it was not the best in terms of generation of the code sometimes.
But it's still there, and it's got better. That's obviously to generate the link queries. And there were some discussions in the CMS team about what could they do there. And of course, this for use in the back office, they need to be prepared for the fact that cache will not always be there in the back office, and they don't want to be reliant on the cache because they want to do a load of lazy loading on the cache, that sort of thing as well in future. So they can't use the traditional APIs, have to do everything through the service layer, and the service layer is not friendly for querying. So what Bjarke's built here is this dynamic route thing that will effectively compile down to a direct database hit, and with a mixture of service layer calls and stuff, but to replace XPath, which is wicked. It means you can't use XPath in code, so you will always still just have to use the APIs that are available in code to query in code, which I think is fine. People shouldn't have been using XPath for quite a long time now. But yeah, it's a way nicer experience for writing as well, because with XPath you always had to know the syntax, but had to remember what it was.
There were some hints, and still for all the kind of hardcore XPath advocates and users, because we know a couple of them from the community, I do remember discussions about maintaining just a syntax of XPath. Do you remember that? It was like, okay, let's keep the syntax in place, but then translate it into something what is
completely. I mean,
translation of the XPath to something. What is
part of me would have said, like, actually a Lucene query is quite a good thing because we're using that elsewhere as well in Umbraco, but it's a weird syntax, and
we were not sharing screen.
Oh, it's fine. It's all in the blog post. I mean, XPath is efficient, but Umbraco's implementation of it was not. In Umbraco 7, where you had an XML-based cache, it made a lot of sense.
Yes.
But now, with 8 and beyond, where you've got this in-memory B-tree-based cache, effectively every iteration in that XPath, every segment in that XPath query is an iteration over items in the cache in memory. It's just not very efficient. And the call was made if they want to do lazy loading of that cache, if they want to do distribution of that cache, putting it on Redis or something, it's just not going to scale very well. So times have got to change.
What is your second favorite thing?
Oh, blocks in the RTE, of course. We had a call yesterday with the client where we were talking about upgrades. They were like, oh yeah, look, that sounds great. And then they said, will our macros come across? I was like, macros? People still use macros. I forget about it. We've just not used it for so long. But blocks in the RTE is a really nice addition. It finally brings that that sort of discussion we had when the blocks concept was first envisioned full circle, in that you can have something that is the same thing and you use it in lots of different contexts. use it everywhere. Eventually that will be in the database. So again, they're reusable. You're not tying your content structure to your, you're not tying your page structure and your presentation to your content structure. It's decoupled data. I'm excited.
And I did see similar approaches in different CMSs as well. They name it a little bit different. I can't remember what Sanity CMS has a name for it, but they also have the same concept of the reusable component blocks being placed inside of the RTE. So it's needed, definitely needed, and editors likes doing it, and they ask for it. My favorite is webhooks. Still. That's again. I've been attending one of the conferences, low code, no code related conference this week, and seeing ability of just plugging in the system like Umbraco as a content source or content consumer by the webhook communication is, in my opinion, a must-have these days.
I kind of bullied, don't know what I should be saying, Louis on my team into as part of his Astro talk that he did at UK Festival to update that to Umbraco 13 literally the day before the session so that he could test out webhooks and get that working. And it was very, very interesting to see just how quickly he could plug something together. It's like, that's now going to call this, and it generates and rebuilds and redeploys my site. It's very nice. The initial conversations that were had with Bianca about webhooks was like, do we just make this a C# thing that you can hook into and just say, call this endpoint when this event happens? The argument was, what are you giving us there that doesn't already exist, that we could just write that ourselves? Yes, you're saving us some time. You can handle retries, that sort of thing. But the interface is great. I'm really happy there's an interface. They've had it in cloud, in Hardcore, for a long time. It's also been on my list of packages to go and build since like V7. So Lee Kelleher even had a repo at one point that was like a placeholder work in progress, a little bit of a prototype. And I messaged him, this must have been 2017, 2018, and said, do you mind if I have a go at that actually as a package? Because I can see you've not done anything with it in a while. He's like, I've not got time. Go for it. Of course, I didn't have time either. Glad it's in the core.
Since I heard about Umbraco doing anything with webhooks, and I decided to stop it because I knew that sooner or later it needs to become more central and CMS built-in functionality because it is still a source of the information, and all the other systems needs to be able to listen to that. And
what we're seeing a lot more, we've said this before, but the way Umbraco is moving is they have, as they're going more into that upper enterprise, bigger projects, working with companies on those RFPs, you have to tick off certain points that your CMS covers to say, yes, we do webhooks. Yes, we have workflow. We have a forms builder, etc. They're finally getting close to that. There's maybe one or two missing pieces. They've got commerce. Maybe they don't have personalization just yet. Well, they can say the community does. Webhooks is a big one and a really easy win that's just been there for ages. So it's a very good addition. I agree.
That's good. And speaking about forms are probably the next big part of the ecosystem. And since the bigger attention maybe around the forms product as well, it's constantly growing and constantly evolving towards a really solid and very widely used product.
I was going to ask, how many times in the last year have you said, I effing hate forms? Because for me, not so many times, and that would have been a far more regular occurrence in previous years. It's getting good. It's getting nicely refined. I feel very comfortable now if I see an update queued up in NuGet saying, it's a form update. You just go, we'll do that. It's going to get better. Before they sometimes break stuff between miners and
lost data and things like that. I think one thing that we've been discussing about the forms recently with the team is an ability to create forms integrations faster for the front-end developers. Something what is seen, at least in our competition landscape, I would say Sidecore JSS has a set of libraries for Vue.js, for React, to build the headless forms just immediately. And when we had a new front-ender starting doing work with Umbraco Forms, they said, okay, where I can find the library to use that? There's no library.
It's something Umbraco does not do well, if we're very honest. Like, there is a couple of the headless SDKs that came with the release of Hardcore. And I've been pushing the CMS team to say, now we've got the delivery API, and Hardcore is eventually going to align with that. Let's get those SDKs up to scratch so you can use the same SDK with Hardcore or with the core CMS. And that needs to expand to things like forms. Another thing happened in 2020, literally on the very cusp of COVID, we had what was it called, a community roundtable or something with Niels, with Kim, and one of the big things we highlighted was we need great examples of how to do stuff in these hipster bits of tech. We need an example for Next, we need an example for Vue, and just to showcase what the product can do, because people
they're coming from there as well.
Yeah,
and that was something what I noticed when I spoke with Sebastian about these libraries and some kind of competition on how many downloads or how many developers downloaded specific library, for example, right? And it's again one of the KPIs or one of the metrics used by someone. But if we are talking about developers and their experience, and if it's 1, 2, 3 developers are coming saying how I can use it, show me an example, because I learn by an example the most.
Oh, completely.
And we build these examples, and maybe as a community we can also share more of these examples, because some of these libraries for me sounded like a community work that can be shared. For example, like a Vue.js starter or whatever, right?
Yeah, completely agree. Seb said there in the chat that Ken's been doing some stuff with Versal. We've obviously seen Ken share an example of Versal with the delivery API earlier on. Matt Brailsford has also made a Versal example for the commerce headless store. Like, there's some really good examples that the team are doing. It's definitely not a case of saying that HQ isn't doing this thing. I also had a chat with Niels Lungso at UK Festival, and he said, "Oh, I'm so excited to see like a traditionally front-end developer getting excited about an Umbraco feature. Like, it's so cool to see, front-end devs are actually running with this and using it themselves. It's only really in the last 3 months that's actually become possible, really possible and accessible for people."
That's true. So it's not only definitely about forms. It's all about kind of utilization of what we can do with Umbraco. So if it's a headless, if it's a new APIs, there's a headless client. And if as I spoke with Seb, if the client is only doing the call to the API, that's awesome. But there is a metric, the library, the way of starting things. Because if you have too many ways, there's too many various misalignments possible in the meantime.
Definitely. New forms release has a dynamic post submission page. That's great. So like you can change where the success page is depending on a value. I'm going to ask a lazy question here. It's on my list to investigate on Monday next week. We have a form, country drop down. We need, depending on what that user selects, to send the email to a different place. Can we do that, or do I have to build it custom? And if we can't do that, can we have that?
I think the conditional workflows might
conditional workflows allow us to do that.
Yeah, I don't know if you will have access to all the information about this language, but you can always store this information somewhere. Right?
Yeah, the client was starting to talk about doing
hidden
something a bit complicated, like when I select this and this combination, then I want to be able to send this different email. And
that's conditional workflows.
Can we do it like as complex as that with several different conditions?
Yes, and that's something what's heavily requested by multiple forms users in our solutions. And when I investigated the initial release of conditional workflows, that was exactly what they wanted.
Perfect.
For example, different email destination based on the office selection or whatever, right? And some things like that.
Nice.
But my favorite, one of the favorites of this release is this relation tracking for forms. When I read through this article, I said, it wasn't there.
As in, so this shows you where the forms
are referenced, where they are used.
Huh.
I thought
it wasn't there. It was there.
That's the same feeling I had when I read this article. It was like we got so used to this reference as this next to driven information that I felt like it was already there, but it wasn't.
Which parts of the CMS don't have reference?
That's
probably members.
That's probably still kind of exploration path, because I thought that forms already had it. But if they didn't, that's good. That's cool that it's coming here with this release, because one of the most probably used user journeys is like, let's go to form. Okay, where it's used. Can I change it? How it will affect my website? How it will affect the front end? So that's a great input and great addition to the forms.
Something else I realized the other day. This is completely unrelated to forms. Sorry, but something else I realized the other day. If you go to Media now tracks revisions. There's like save history on Media. How long has that been there? Because that's news to me. Anyway,
small things, again, big differences, right? So some of the other rejected state for approvals, mandatory options for setting, field picker settings, and other updates. Great,
very good,
great update. And still, it all benefits from all the underlying improvements of the ecosystem infrastructure and the .NET itself.
Yeah.
That's another topic that we can talk about.
Let's talk about .NET. Yeah, .NET 8 came out, of course, last week, and there was .NET Conference, which highlights everything. The .NET landscape, if when we talk about .NET, we're probably talking about this much of a bigger picture, because we typically think of ASP.NET, and we think of maybe .NET Core, and we maybe think of Maui. Maybe
after some of the recent events when we learned about it.
Yeah. But and maybe Blazor.
Yeah.
But I think probably the typical Umbraco developers toolkit includes .NET, ASP.NET.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
All. Yeah.
And that's perfectly fine. But if you look at the announcements from last week, we've got entirely new paradigms for .NET. So they've got a big focus on AI and running like connecting up to OpenAI stuff, a big push on cloud native with this introduction of a thing called Aspire, which is a dreadful name, really bad name. But yeah, they've got that. Open telemetry is a massive thing that, again, we don't really hear so much about in the Umbraco world, but it's about, keeping an eye on your logs and aggregating data in a good way that you can, do better monitoring of your applications when they're running. Tons of stuff. And on top of the already massive improvements to Blazor, .NET, .NET Core, Maui, etc.
General performance as well. I do love reading these articles on the dev blogs of Microsoft, because they always highlight how it's changed since the previous versions. I was collecting for one of the presentations. I was collecting it since the version of .NET framework. And it constantly improves. So it's like a handling of requests per second, integration with the standard ways, or as you name it, the hipster way of doing things. The hipster ways for us are kind of pretty market standards for some of the implementations there. That's surprising. And since with this observability patterns, for example, I think we were talking about it for a while, trying to include things like Datadog or platforms that are gathering the information from multiple sources. And in this crazy world of omni-channel and various channels of consuming the same content, it's becoming more essential, and that's why it's good to have it as a part of the platform and have a standard way of handling things. Right?
I agree. You mentioned performance improvements, huge performance improvements just across the board. I saw somebody on Twitter say, "Oh, look how amazing it is to upgrade from .NET 7 to 8," and it was just a screenshot of change the CS proj, you've got a version bump, and that's it. When you compare to, say, .NET Framework of past, it would be a lot of work, and you get some minimal gains. You have to go through, refactor your code. This just instantly gives you some performance boosts off the bat. And when we're talking sustainability and all those other points as well, just makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, true. And still, I did change some of the .NET versions recently in one of the projects, and it really worked. So it's like proved not only by presentations and blog posts, but also by examples, and developers love it. And developers really like using this new functionalities, and we saw some Maui functionalities on the recent events as well. It's really cool. It's getting there. And C# itself, we've been both talking about the C# updates in the past a lot.
Yeah, C# 12.
Are you following up?
I'm getting lost, honestly. Some things, just like we just discussed, some things go, oh, I thought that was already there.
Yes.
And some of the things that are like, oh, it doesn't do that. I thought it always did that, or that's only been added just now. I also have to be a little careful, because I get to see the language design workshops that Mads does.
That's what I wanted to say.
That's
what I wanted to say. That probably also have this kind of more insiders knowledge
a little bit
because of the MVP and some insider stuff on there behind the NDAs.
Well, so I'll actually say on that, Mads is very, very open, and people who've met him at Code Garden and whatnot will know he's a very open guy, and really wants to share as much as he possibly can. The lack of information they put out, they do put open source like meeting minutes on GitHub. Everything they do, almost everything they do, is working in the open, so that's pretty nice. The only reason they don't actually publicly say we're going to do these things is because they want to be able to change their mind. They want
to commit too much, right?
Because a little bit of insight. We asked Mads if he'd be willing to take part in the Umbraco Community Day this year and talk about C# 12, and he said, "My brain's already in C# 13 mode, so probably not this time." It's like it's completely fair, but okay. So C# 12 only actually officially general release was last week, and we're already in 13 mode and beyond.
Fast pace.
Quite incredible.
Yeah, but I do the same as you, because I did try to follow the updates of the platforms. It was somewhere like C# 6, 7, 8. And I stopped doing this for every single version since then, because it's like some of the discussions, some of the community propositions, some of the insiders' knowledge, some of the stuff. But the language is generally improving a lot. And when I tried recently on one of the .NET Core projects, I was able to see some hints and suggestions from both Rider and Visual Studio Code extensions on how it can be done better. So it's like, the language itself supports it very much. Plus, all the improvements and additional features makes it like it's just better to work with.
There's a whole blog post on what's changed in C# 12, which is incredible as well. And a load of documentation on stuff that they've done. I think they just highlighted it in this blog post. My actual favorite syntactic feature here is it's not Interceptors at all. It's the collection. Expression matching thing, collection expression. So people maybe again don't know this because your IDE will either take care of it for you, or you're just used to writing it a certain way. But nowadays, if you've got a typed property, so like they have on this side list of string, it knows what the type of the object on the other side is going to be already. So you don't need a new list or a new keyword even. In this case, we're kind of going JavaScript-y, but I love it in that. To initialize a collection or an array or a list, you don't have to do any of that. You do the array initializer and then just build out your list. And critically, it will handle the most efficient type under the hood. So if you specify that as a I list, for example, or as an array, and it can actually be as a list, and it can actually just be an array, it will do that under the hood and store it efficiently in memory. So no, it's really exciting, and just few less keystrokes, clean syntax.
And also there was a lot of, in the past, a lot of the code that initialized a new object that was empty. So with this kind of cleaner code, we will be able to avoid a lot of unused memory and a lot of allocations that are not used, which is, again, the end goal of .NET itself, to improve the performance, reduce the consumption of the resources and stuff like that. But the interceptors were highlighted by you on one of the notes, and I do agree that this is a huge change, because it allows us to hack a lot of the
Interceptors is controversial. So this is a feature that is, as they highlighted, experimental. They could remove it at any time. And I think there's been quite a lot of pushback by the community on this. Not that it's not cool. It's very cool. It's just very dangerous.
Huge power.
So the idea here is that you can say, I want you to replace this method at this path in another namespace with this thing. It's like, wow, okay, cool. If you genuinely need to do a hack on like a closed source library, fine. But if it becomes commonplace to use, that's where it becomes dangerous. And I think that's kind of what Microsoft's saying. It could have been an undocumented feature that they never tell anyone about, and it's just there, and they use it maybe for some things. And,
I was not investigating how they handled this with the code, but I did find a lot of use cases where we needed to replace not the whole interface implementation, for example, through the container, but maybe in this case, if we'll be able in the future decorate some of the areas of the system that could be swapped later. Something I see huge potential, again, huge risk as well, but we did see it with Unsafe Code as well on one of the previous releases, like, no one should do the Unsafe Code, but then it turns out that with the Unsafe Code, some people can optimize some of the executions to have no memory allocated sorting algorithms and stuff like that. Right?
So you mentioned Unsafe Code, which is kind of the next point we wanted to highlight. So fantastic video by Nick Chapsis. Who, if you don't know, go subscribe to him. If you and us at the same time, you should subscribe to us.
We can borrow a couple.
But he's doing awesome, and he's doing a really great amount of .NET video content. Maybe watch it on 0.5 speed because he talks very quickly. But he's done a very good video on unsafe something attribute in .NET. Basically, this is a new way of doing reflection, or achieving what you might have done before with reflection, which is you may want to directly call a property that exists in a private method, or you may want to override a property that exists in a direct method. And so you can use this unsafe accessor attribute to effectively tell the compiler that I want to be able to change this thing, and then you can write your own code to run it. And the comparison, when you look at the performance of this, is he showed there's a benchmark.net thing in here somewhere.
Yes, I was just highlighting it somewhere.
It's probably there. It is. There's the stats. Oh, that's captions. Yeah. So general reflection, doing get method and basically calling a method, took 20 nanoseconds. Nanoseconds aren't a lot, but of course everything matters. The second you cache that, he was doing this in a loop. So if you cache that, it's 6 nanoseconds, so a quarter of the time, which is great. As soon as you use unsafe, it's literally down to a 0.4 nanoseconds. So we're talking
crazy.
A 15x performance improvement there.
That's crazy.
And then even more when you call methods directly and don't use the kind of reflection stuff. So but I like it. And the other thing that it gives you that reflection didn't is more type safety. So you actually have like IntelliSense on what you're building. This just says I'm exposing this as a thing that you can execute and use. It looks very cool. It's going to be a different mental model when you're thinking about, am I going to do something via reflection or not? I think a lot of people in .NET do stuff with reflection and don't even realize they're doing it, and the performance
reading
impact
all of the assemblies. And
exactly.
Stuff from the
.get type, for example, like is dangerous. As soon as you call .get type, you're doing something wrong.
Yes,
typically.
And I do remember our discussions about performance on this level, because again, it affects probably 20% of our general web application performance when it comes to this low code, low in code backend optimization. But it can make a huge difference when it's done wrong. And I do remember some of the use cases where people from the memory community that I was following in Poland did a lot of optimization on the sorting algorithm, on the performance of the span of T, and all the magics with unsafes. And again, if you know how to use it, then you will use it. But it's not obligatory to use this as an unsafe path for every method just to make some crazy optimization.
I was trying to ship a talk last year called Writing in Efficient C#, and the idea was, rather than going into all the kind of micro optimizations you can do and the little things, it was more kind of explaining what happens when you choose a list over an array, like in memory. What's that doing? Or why would you choose one over the other? Or when you call toList or where and chain where clauses, what's actually happening under the hood? To raise a bit of awareness, because I think people do this a lot in Umbraco code and don't realize the impact. I've seen, people just repeating the same thing or doing stuff in a loop every time. It's like, that's going to loop 15 times to get the data that you're trying there.
Maybe we need to reunion our.
Maybe we do. I'd like to reboot the talk. If that sounds interesting to people, let me know. Maybe I'll do it.
Is there anyone here who attended our talk? What was the name?
Got 99 problems and a glitch one.
99 problems on one of the code gardens.
It's on Code Garden 2018 or 17. It's up on Vimeo somewhere.
Yeah, so that was a really good talk, and I think this might got revisited, because again, the mistakes are similar. We talked about strings then a lot, and concatenations, and I do think that there is a lot of rooms and areas of the implementations right now, querying of data, integrations, calling the HTTP requests and stuff like that. There's plenty of things to talk about.
HTTP client, David Fowler said, HTTP client is the one thing I see most commonly misused in C# alongside link, and like completely. People don't appreciate the lifetime that HTTP client has, or don't dispose of things properly.
Again, let us know if you would be interested in this kind of topic, maybe at some, or decide on doing some more talks and get into the internals of how the things are done in the C#. So summarizing this part of the news, there is new .NET version released literally 1 week ago. There's new version of Umbraco benefiting from the latest release candidate of this as well. So we can test both of them right now, and we are able to do it for a little while already. And there's plenty of things in .NET itself that has changed, and we will link up this article to everything what has changed and every highlights from the team in the Microsoft sharing it. So please do take a look and let us know. Of course, that one of the other big tasks on this one is AI. but we can talk about AI.
Should we talk about AI?
We can talk about AI.
What happened this week, Marcin? What happened in the world of AI this week?
We had a lesson of management, good and bad management, lesson about big tech, lesson about power of communities and power of people.
Completely,
again, I've mentioned all of these quotes that we were talking a lot about. It's all about people, not technology and stuff like that. And it was like a really nice Netflix or HBO series.
It was
executed on Twitter.
Silicon Valley happening in real time on Twitter. For those that don't know, we'll fill you in.
Yes.
So OpenAI, the CEO of OpenAI, is a man called Sam Altman. He has a long history with the tech community. He was based at Y Combinator. He was the chairman of Y Combinator and a bunch of things in Silicon Valley. What's important is OpenAI is probably the hottest tech company.
And the biggest tech as well.
In terms of reach and impact. They're the hottest tech company around right now. Microsoft did a really good job early on of going, we're going to chuck a load of money at them, because the big thing that AI companies need is compute. They need to be able to train. And if you've literally got unlimited compute at your disposal, then you can train the best models. So OpenAI has a 8 or 9 month lead on pretty much every competitor at this point with their AI product. It is without doubt the most advanced general application AI that's available on the market today. Then it gets political. There was some internal scuffling, let's say, Thursday night, Friday last week, where their team decided, the board decided they were going to unilaterally remove Sam as CEO from the company, alongside a couple of his associates. They moved quickly to put an interim CEO in place, which is a lady called Mira. She's their CTO.
Yes.
Very interesting person, actually.
I started following her, to be fair, since this time.
And then also a guy called Ilya, who is their chief scientist. Effectively, there was some rumors that he'd kind of instigated the thing. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. The world, or the AI world, kind of went into meltdown. This came completely out of the blue. So Sam, who is not typically he's not an AI expert, he's not an engineer, but he's the visionary guy. He's the Steve Jobs figure of this company, was in true Steve Jobs fashion removed by his own board.
And it was not him who was stepping down.
No, exactly. So there's so many twists and turns. It's literally like a drama series. But importantly, over the course of the weekend, the company, 775 people strong company, about 760 of them slowly started to sign a petition to say, we're going to join Microsoft. Satya was like, open arms, come on in.
Come on.
We'll give everyone MacBooks, don't worry. You don't have to run to our policy, something like literally come to us. Because Microsoft have bet a huge part of their business on OpenAI as well. It's very, very critical for them. There was all this drama back and forth. Basically, 98% of the company threatened to resign and move to Microsoft if he wasn't reinstated. The CEO, the interim CEO, also said that. So the board then fired her, got a new CEO in place, who basically worked for 24 hours to work out why the original CEO had been removed, concluded there was no real strong arguments for doing so, and look, you don't really have a company anymore. And now everything's back to normal. A few days later.
So someone said that it might be a big marketing campaign at some point.
If so, genius.
Exactly. That was
all of tech Twitter. It's all they were talking about on the weekend.
But that revealed a couple of lessons learned. And then one of them is like how people matters when it comes to business. Because again, if Sam and the rest of the team will went to Microsoft will gain the best and the most out of it.
Completely.
OpenAI might disappear, even though without them being in charge of that, without a huge ecosystem and also the community network that they've built on top of that. So that's one thing. Second thing is like how crazy this market can be and how fast decisions can be made like that. Because usually for, let's say, government restricted companies, this kind of decisions takes months, weeks, ages.
This
There's
took 20 minutes.
procedures.
This took 20 minutes on a Google Meet call.
And here, one call on Google Meet, not Teams yet, was responsible for the future of a lot of this.
It wiped $80 billion worth of value off Microsoft's stock. It nearly obliterated OpenAI as a company, where they would have basically all moved to Microsoft and started again.
Yeah.
And like, just think of the progress that you would have been not losing, because there's various complexities in that. Microsoft owned part of the IP that currently exists, but massive potential to risk, human progress there in terms of technology. My biggest takeaways were all of this is a governance issue. It's a fact that the board felt they could remove the visionary founder, visionary CEO, and that was going to be okay, or that they had justification for it and that everything would be fine. Turns out they learned their lesson pretty hard, and most of them are no longer on the board anymore. They've put a much more mature, serious board in place. Where I'm saying about governance and why this is important, and why this relates to Umbraco or open source in general, is you clearly need a very strong, well-aligned team as your board, as your grounding. But equally, they were told by their employees, their community, this is a bad idea, and went ahead with it anyway. And it's also important, I think, for those employees, for the community, to have a say in the way things are run. If we draw some parallels with Umbraco, we can see Umbraco, the open source project, being a bit like OpenAI. It's something that's been built out of people's passion and love for the product. And this is open source in general. People do it for fun, for free. And Umbraco, as a commercial entity, and the OpenAI board as a commercial entity, have a responsibility to keep that going, but also have to look after many other interests too. And you get that weird blurred line where potentially, making a big drastic change has catastrophic consequences, and people can and will just go, right, we're off. We're going somewhere else. I'm not saying this is happening with Umbraco. To be very, very clear, there's no coup, as far as I understand, going on in the Umbraco community. But it's very interesting that these things can be that fragile when you depend so heavily on something, or people are so passionate about something that it's. And
when you would think that in this big kind of tech, the biggest, let's say, impactful tech company, there is a risk mitigation handled somewhere, and then you have a mystical board who is making their decision on the majority without taking the voice of the crowd. That's the interesting to see, because here everyone wants to have a voice, everyone wants to have an impact, and everyone knows how big an impactful change of the CEO can be. We've been going through this with Kim going as a new CEO after Niels, for example, which was for our small community a big change, but it was not a drastically made decision like this. It was not something what was done by someone from the outside. It was just internal exchange. But this is the kind of interesting thing, that someone makes the decisions without calculating the risk, and it just showed how people can unite and how they can really make things because they love things.
Power of community.
And OpenAI is definitely a good example of just a passionate, driven project, which is right now really risky, and there is a lot of rumors and theories. I don't know if you heard about this AGI risk that is kind of.
They're not close to AGI. If we're honest, but everyone likes to speculate like it's some kind of sci-fi movie. The other thing I would just say here to round this topic off is the very interesting angle is that the reason that the board was able to unilaterally remove Sam Altman in the first place is because he said, just because I'm the kind of the visionary, the public face, the one that's leading this forward, I actually think eventually that all of humanity should be the board for this product. We're building an AI for humanity, for the world. And
some of these people were afraid that they will lose power.
Maybe. So he was effectively, they made a corporate structure around the fact that the people who own the commercial rights are one board, and the one company, and the actual technology belongs to a non-profit. And he basically, his view is if the board, humanity, disagrees with the way it's being ran, democratize it. You should be able to remove me. Unfortunately, that happened a little bit too quickly, and probably for the wrong motivations. But it's a great, very interesting model as far as open source goes. Like ownership is as a shared thing,
Yeah.
rather than necessarily one individual company or board or whatever having a direct say over it.
Yeah.
Intellectual property and whatever aside, like.
Yeah, which is a big topic behind it as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a serious, I would say. And wouldn't be surprised if someone will make out of a series out of it.
I'd love to watch that.
A lot of the people watch.
If anyone's watched Silicon Valley, if anyone's watched the WeWork,
we crashed,
and definitely have crashed now, haven't they? Or if anyone's watched the it's called Super Pumped. It was the Uber story.
Yeah, and
if anyone's watched those, it's one of those.
Anna.
Yeah, exactly.
Another crazy.
Exactly. Some really excellent TV shows that it fits so perfectly within. So I'm sure there will be one. Sure.
And there is a AI generated trailer of this closed AI.
Oh, good.
That was something what already involved some of the good actors. So that's I wouldn't be surprised if it would be the AI generated movie out of it.
I saw someone on Twitter making a quip that everyone's all worried that AI is going to steal their job, and turns out the only job AI has stolen is the CEO of the AI company itself, which is kind of funny. Yeah.
Cool, lesson learned. Definitely interesting to follow what technology people will bring to us. Same as Elon talking about doing some changes and revolutions of X via X and things like that. So it's we might think like there is a big things out there, but still it's people who are doing these things, and it's all about people. So. Good. What else do we have? We have a couple of other things to mention.
A couple of bits. So Marcus Johansson has made a really nice resources for. You're not sharing the screen.
I'm not sharing.
Made a really nice resource for. He's kind of collecting things together for. Here's all the key bits you might want to look at if you're going to play with Umbraco 14. He's been fairly vocal on. He's been trying some stuff out. The things that's just not worked. The things that have worked really well. He's highlighted blog posts by Andy. Andy's blogging as well.
Mm-hmm.
Lee Kelleher has been outed as playing with Umbraco 14 in a branch somewhere, and he's now shared it there for everyone to go and have a look at. But no, it's very interesting to see.
Content,
It is happening. So I'm going to be keeping a close eye on this. I'm hoping Marcus is either going to do iterations of this and release a couple of blog posts, or just keep this resource up to date.
Yeah, he said that he will be updating this. So that's really interesting, because we know how hard it is to migrate and change the versions, and especially for the package creators and for everyone who are heavily dependent on the Umbraco itself. And Marcus, of course, has the big product
newsletter studio
who needs to be
very UI heavy.
Yeah. So great set of resources. Let's keep it up. Bookmark this link to keep it updated, or follow Marcus' blog for more.
Yeah.
The next article which we want to say.
Running Umbraco on a cluster of Raspberry Pis, which I know Sebastian's also done a blog post on this and how he's running his website on a Raspberry Pi in his closet. We were actually chatting earlier today just about some of the logistics and challenges that are involved in that. It sounds very interesting. But yeah, Terence has been doing a talk. I think he did a talk in the Manchester meetup last week where he revealed how he deals with all of this sort of thing. And it seems to become a bit of a trend. You can run your Umbraco site very efficiently on minimal resources.
Yeah, I'm always impressed by this kind of hardcore, geeky, deep dive into the optimization of where it can run, the fridge and stuff. You've been doing as well. This talk
run Umbraco on a fridge
everywhere. So it's impressive, and it seems like this cluster is a successful project.
Yeah.
So follow that, and definitely if anyone wants to replicate the steps and accomplish the same goals, there is a lot of references here on how to do that. The next item on the list is
if we had a pull request of the week, I don't know if we can do pull request of the week anymore. It's not really a thing. But contribution or whatever idea of the week, amazing, Ollie. Yes, be able to remove a language variant. You just can't do it. There's no way. So make a PR to the core or something to allow you to delete the language variant would be excellent. But as far as I'm aware, this hasn't been possible until now, and really should be. So
that's
package it up, make a PR, please.
Who's going to be first, right? That's but kudos to Ollie for highlighting this and making it public, because again, we can realize, even probably Umbraco might not realize that this is a missing UI feature, and it's definitely needed. Needed.
I saw this on Twitter whenever it was yesterday, 2 days ago, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I can see why that would be helpful. And then literally yesterday was testing something. I was like, oh, I'm just going to make, as a quick demo, make a variant here. And I was like, actually,
I don't want it.
I don't want it anymore. How do I get rid of it? I can't. So yeah, great addition. Please.
It's like a Vim of our Umbraco.
Vim of
you cannot remove variants. So yeah, that's great. And last item on our today's list is Umbraco Community Day.
I am very, very, very excited.
We have already some submissions.
We've got a very nice number of submissions, and we've got a few people we've been speaking to directly as well. Some Microsoft people.
Oh yeah.
Some people outside of the community. It's looking like a really packed day. For a bit of context, I am leaving today.
Yes.
To go to Australia, and I am arriving back in the UK on the 12th at 6 a.m. and at 2 p.m. I'm flying to the Netherlands so we can do this. It's literally going to be an absolute mission to get there, but very excited. You'll see me fast asleep on the sofa in that studio, hot lights.
So you will use the same studio that you
It's a different studio.
Because it was used for the AI Day, Azure Day, one
Global Azure Day as well. So yeah, this is a studio that Henk Boelman and the global AI community own and run in Utrecht, and it's the same. It's a set in a studio, in a building, basically a co-working space, if you will. It's just a set that's been built. It's moved, so the set looks a bit nicer, slightly different, but it's in the same space. People in the Netherlands are more than welcome to come along and join in with the fun in the studio. We've got space for, 10 or so people to come in person. But yeah, submit your talks. We want talks from everywhere. We're really trying to get a good representation of people from all over the world. We've had talks from India. We're talking to a couple of people in South America as well, which we struggled to do last time. US. I was messaging Fuji, who's in Mauritius, just to see if his team would want to get involved as well. We really want people from all over. So yeah, submit your ideas. It doesn't have to be a fully fledged idea right now. You've got a few weeks to shape it all up. But get your submissions in. Deadline is next Thursday, but we are today sending out a bunch of acceptance emails to people. So
that's good. How many slots are to be filled? Is there
It's really flexible. So we're planning to run at least for 12 hours, 8 a.m. CET to 8 p.m. CET, which is what we did last year. The talk slots are somewhere between 25 minutes with a 5-minute chat to 40 minutes with a 5 or 10 minute chat. We've got some panels that we're bringing people on. Those might run for a bit longer. We're going to have, I'd love for some non-tech content, a quiz or some fun stuff as well. Again, that could run for as long as possible. So realistically, we're looking at minimum 20 slots, but it could be 30 or 35 if we structure it well.
Nice. So that's good. And then call to action is to submit. The idea is to let you all pick the best and the most interesting mixture of the conversations there.
Completely. This is also it's streamed for free live on YouTube. We welcome everybody. Please join us. Wear your Umbraco t-shirts on the day. Tweet. We'll etc. Socials. We'll be promoting that aspect coming up. But if you wanted a good place to practice a talk for, say, Code Garden, which the CFP opened last week or the week before, it's open until February, or Umbraco Spark, which is happening in March. If you just want to try some material out, try some ideas, concepts out, this is a great place to do so. Friendly space, virtual, relatively low effort to be there. So yeah, cool. Get your ideas in.
Yeah, let's do that. That's all from our list.
Everything.
We might have talked about this Code Garden talk submissions opens as well. Yeah, that was probably in the meantime.
We'll make sure there's a link down below for the Code Garden CFP. But yeah, we spoke for an hour on just a few items. That's all. People, let us know in the chat how you found this format, if it works. We're not going to be in person every time. Just convenient today.
Someone said that it was surprising to see us in the same place. It was fine.
Exactly. But if you like this format, the kind of more discussions, less news driven, like just rattling through news.
Let
Let us know if you prefer the old umbraCoffee. Let us know as well.
Let us know as well. Yeah, that's again, we are evolving and we are adapting and changing. We are finding ourselves in the updated realities as well. What are you doing on Fridays now?
Working, honestly,
Yes.
working.
I can share that I didn't even realize that time flew so fast.
Yeah.
I was just these Fridays were just passing by.
Had a slightly less stressful morning, let's say.
Sure.
Not going, we need to pull together the news and all
Yeah.
stuff. Except this morning where I did have to do that. Typically it's been less stressful, so
Yes.
it's better. But we do need to get better at planning episodes in. Our next episode, as I understand, it's on the 22nd
Christmas
of
edition.
December. It's going to be a Christmas edition. Let us know what you want to do there. We want to get people on. We want to, have a chat with people. Have wear silly outfits, wear a hat or something. Would be good fun.
That will be fun. And definitely let us know what you think. Share whatever you've done and whatever you want to highlight, and let us highlight as well. If we missed anything, as usually, let us also know about it. We will refer to that back then. And be sure to join us in a month from now on.
22nd.
Safe travels.
Thanks
for stepping by.
Thanks for having me.
We hope that we surprised you a little bit with this unreveal of Callum. And let's have an amazing weekend ahead, the rest of the day, and see you soon.
See you next month.
Bye-bye, everyone. Take care.